Last week, something completely unexpected happened in my inbox. I received an email offering me the opportunity to review the brand new Red Komodo X. The only catch was that I could only keep the camera for about a week, and they were going to be shipping it to me in just 3 days. Now, since I already owned the original Komodo and the Red V Raptor, when the Komodo X was released, I honestly didn't think I needed it. But when it sold out in less than 24 hours, I can't lie, I felt like I might have made a mistake. And with only 3 days in order to plan out what I wanted to do with the camera, I had to think quick. So I tried to keep it simple. My goal with this review is to put the Red Komodo through its paces in as many different shooting situations as possible. I wanted to test how versatile this camera could be, especially because of all the new improvements that Red made, to see if they were really worth the upgrade. From the new sensor that Red promised was going to improve the low light performance of this camera, to the updated I/O system that aimed to make this camera easier to use overall. This camera had a lot of hype to live up to. So I did what I do in all of these situations. I called up all of my creator friends, told them what was going on, and we set out to see how good this camera really was. For our first test, we decided to rent a location here in Houston, Texas, because we wanted to work with a local dancer. We decided to rent out a space that was open and that would allow us to keep for a pretty simple lighting setup. The goal was simple: to capture amazing footage with this camera and really showcase what it could do. We dialed in our lighting and then began to build out camera. Now, for this, I wanted to shoot everything using the IRIX cinema lenses. I really wanted to see what these lenses were capable of, especially because they were so affordable. We calibrated the camera, which was an absolute breeze because it was actually done in less than 30 seconds. Now, I must confess, this project came together so last minute that I didn't have time to create a proper storyboard. So while our talented dancer was rehearsing, I started exploring different shots, capturing the raw essence of her performance. And let me tell you, as I reviewed the first set of frames, I was blown away. The lighting was perfect and our dancer's movements were simply mesmerizing. With the shots locked in, it was time to attach the camera to the Steadicam and let our skilled operator Reese work his magic. Using the Red Control app, I was able to dial in my settings wirelessly from my phone, which was especially helpful because the camera was already mounted and balanced onto the Steadicam. We quickly went over some shot ideas that I had, and then there was nothing else to do but add the last minute haze, and then magic. So as someone who is a Raptor user, I love the fact that my Raptor has higher frame rates, and that's one major drawback from the original Komodo. But now the X is actually giving us 6K at 80 frames per second, and we just got a chance to shoot with a dancer and the footage just looks buttery smooth. I find that playing around with slow motion adds emotion, and so far we've gotten a couple different tests of the camera, shooting it at some different resolutions, shooting it at some different frame rates, and honestly with all the shots so far, I'm just really happy with what it currently looks like on the camera. Obviously we got to get it off camera and actually grade it and play around with the footage, but so far, I mean, everything looks beautiful. Now, as I mentioned at the top of this video, we've captured everything using these IRIX Cine lenses, which was a fantastic pairing with the Komodo X. Now, yes, these lenses are designed to actually work with full frame sensors. However, they work really well with the Komodo X sensor because of how sharp they were and how amazing they were to actually work with as far as being able to pair them with the RF locking mount. This was a match made in heaven. Now, yes, I am a little bit biased because not only did they send the lenses out for us to test, but they also helped me financially pull this video off, because this video was a massive undertaking and this was not going to be a cheap project. So thank you so much to IRIX for helping me pull this project off and allowing me to capture some of these amazing shots. But as we all know, testing the camera is not about just putting it in a beautiful location with fantastic lighting. It's about really pushing the camera to see what it could do. So I figured if we were going to continue to push this camera, we had to test it right, which meant it was time for the low light test. Now, when it came to the Lambo project, there were a few elements of the Komodo X that we wanted to test. For starters, we knew we had to check out the new sensor that was supposed to be better in low light conditions. On top of that, this was the first time on a Red camera that the autofocus feature was no longer in beta. So it was imperative that we test it out to see if that autofocus feature was actually usable. Now, when most people think about a Red camera, I think the last thing that comes to their mind is having autofocus. However, our experience with the autofocus, and Reese,
it's surprisingly good.
Right? It's
good.
It's like usable. And because the autofocus was working so good, I had what it's probably would be considered a insane idea. So now we're going to test the autofocus using the control app on the phone and see if we can't manually control the autofocus. And if you think that sounds crazy, you're not the only one. What'd you say?
You said manually control the autofocus.
Yes. Now, full transparency, the image that I was seeing on the phone wasn't the cleanest. However, I was still able to move the box around in order to keep our subject in focus. So then when I saw the final shot,
Alexa, you're out of job.
that's it, all ACs, you've been replaced. The fact that the autofocus was so good was a huge shock to me. It was actually the last thing I expected to walk away with feeling from this camera. I know autofocus is not a feature that most cinematographers would find important in a cinema camera, but the fact that this camera had it made me feel like anyone could pick up this camera and be able to utilize it. But it was clear, the sun was setting and now it was time to get into the low light test, which was the main reason we were out there to begin with. Now, full transparency, this is not what I was expecting when it came to the low light capabilities of the Komodo X. In fact, I would go as far as to say is that this comes fairly close to my Red V Raptor. No, the shadows are not quite as clean as the V Raptor, but man, for a camera that's about a third of the price and it's a Super 35 sensor, it's pretty insane. In fact, the low light capabilities of this camera are so good that I actually decided to shoot at a higher frame rate in order to try to get some slow motion shots of the flames kicking out of the back of this Lambo. And honestly, I'm surprised that even doubling my shutter in order to compensate for the higher frame rate, I was still able to get incredibly clear images with this sensor.
Brandon, did you get the flames?
I got the flames. Thank God for a global shutter, because I don't know if that would have turned out nearly as good on a rolling shutter camera. 2 projects in and I was beat. I'm dying on the inside. But there was no time to rest because tomorrow I had probably the most over-the-top project I had scheduled for this crazy week. Because of the technical nature of this next project, it was the one I was the least prepared for, but also the most excited. Now, selfishly, this was the project I was actually the most excited about filming, primarily because about a year ago, I was at NAB and I got a chance to see the virtual walls for the very first time. And I knew I wanted to shoot something on one, and this was my shot. Now, filming on a virtual wall is a super technical endeavor. I mean, for this project alone, we had to hire 2 guys to come out just to operate the wall. Huge shout out to my friend Nathan Lerner, who not only let us utilize his studio space, but also is actually the owner of the wall and was more than happy to help out with this project. One major hurdle with this production was just how much rigging was going to be necessary. So much stuff needed to be rigged to the physical camera itself. So I reached out to my friends over at Condor Blue in order to see what they had. Now, technically, there isn't a cage out just yet for the Komodo X. However, they do have some pieces from the original Komodo cage that will work with the Komodo X, which is exactly what we use for this production. However, they do have a completely new Komodo X cage coming soon. Now, when working on this project, the new IO array on this camera definitely came in handy. For starters, we wanted to run audio directly into camera using the new audio 5-pin Lambo connection, but then we also needed to gin lock the camera in order to get a better experience on the screen. So we just bungeed the old adapter directly to the camera and that seemed to work. We finished dialing in our scene for the screen, and then we also dialed in our lighting based off of that scene. And quickly I realized, wow, shooting on an LED volume is fantastic. So this video is not sponsored by Condor Blue, but they said they would just like to support my creative ideas and didn't want me to do an ad read at all. But I don't care what they say. So I want to say thank you, Condor Blue, for helping us out. If you guys need any accessories for your Komodo or Komodo X, or really any camera, buy Condor Blue stuff. We got a few additional shots that I'm going to be holding for a future video talking all about the LED volume, but shooting with this camera just showed me how much latitude this camera gives you because you can put it in so many different situations, including shooting on a very high-end professional volume and still get amazing images out of it. You know, this camera was really starting to show me that it really could be used for any production, but now it was time to put this camera in its most dangerous situation yet. Everything you're about to experience was performed by a licensed pilot. So if you choose to fly your Komodo X, please proceed with caution. All right, how do I move this thing? Nope. There you go. To say that I was nervous for this next project would be a massive understatement. As I mentioned before, this camera isn't mine, so the fact that I was trusting a team of very talented FPV pilots to basically drop it off of a building was kind of the scariest thing I think I've ever done for production. This is one of those ask for forgiveness instead of for permission situations. For this project, I partnered up with Beto, who is one of Houston's best FPV pilots. The goal of the production was simple. We wanted to test out both of his drones, one with a gimbal and the other a fixed FPV drone. Now, Beto is an insanely talented pilot, but that didn't stop me from feeling super nervous. If it was my camera, I'd probably feel a little bit better. Yeah. But, I mean, I was just asked, they were like, hey, can you please make sure you ship this back by Monday?
How many pieces?
Exactly. Exactly. So I figured it was time to start getting some shots. We set up our drone, dialed in our camera settings, and it was time to put the camera up in the air. Yes, this was the most difficult and nerve-wracking part of the entire thing, but it had to be done. I was here to get these shots. So we sent our camera up in the sky. Beto took full control, and what we got next... Now, full transparency, these were not the exact shots that I was looking for my project. However, we wanted to test what a 50mm lens would look like on the drone. And honestly, I think for the right projects, these shots look fantastic. However, I knew that I wanted to try to get something a little bit different. And with only a small number of batteries left, we had to get our shots dialed in. So it was time to switch over to the fixed FPV drone. Now, with only 2 batteries, that meant we only had 2 flight chances. So it was important that we got all the shots we wanted with each flight. And that's when it happened. Nope, there is nothing wrong with your screen. This entire shot is just out of focus. What we pretty much came to the conclusion is that the gust of the wind from flying the FPV physically moved the lens elements, which actually caused the entire shot to be out of focus. I've never gone from just pure joy on set to just pure depression so quickly before. I had no one to blame but myself. I had chosen the wrong lens for the job. But thankfully, Beto was able to work with me on a new plan. We took the filter off of the camera and then decided we would put it back up into the air and try a different technique. But the truth of the matter was that battery was done. There was nothing else we could do about it, and we only had one more battery left to go. So we attached our final set of batteries onto this drone, made up a plan, and got ready to put it back up into the sky. wonder.
Man, you can breathe.
Yeah, me too.
Focus is good. The camera's back.
Focus is good. Camera's back in one piece. That's very important. I appreciate you getting the camera back in one piece.
Absolutely, dude.
I just sat here nervously watching, trying not to throw up. You know.
Yeah, same here. I felt the same way.
That first drop, I swear, but I'm pretty sure I was like doing this, doing this wobble dance the whole time. But yeah, no, it looks great. And just like that, we successfully wrapped up the day. Very happy with the shots we got, but knowing we still had one more project to do. This is day 5 of the Komodo X project. Is that what I'm calling it? I don't even know what I'm calling it at this point. I'm borderline delirious. Now for project number 5, I really just wanted to get the opportunity to shoot with the Bolt again and to partner up with my good friend Justin Bowers. I don't really know what we're testing, but I've always wanted to do this kind of shoot. I worked with the Bolt not too long ago, so it's kind of an excuse to just do it again. But the global shutter is definitely coming in handy because we're moving this can fast. Now, unlike any other project I've done before where there is a pretty long shot list, this time we decided we wanted to get everything in a single shot, utilizing not just one, but 2 bolts at the same time. We storyboarded out our shots and we knew it was going to be a lot of work and a little bit of work in post. However, we felt like if we could spend the time correctly in order to get a single beautiful shot, it would be worth it. The only problem with this is we were gambling that we were going to be able to get that shot, because the truth is that if we were unable to, we'd have nothing to fall back on. So we quickly built out our background, our set, and got our props into place in order to start getting our shot dialed in. And there were a few places where the Komodo X truly shined. For starters, Komodo X has the ability to be controlled from the Red Control Pro app, which allowed us to control the camera remotely from our laptop. We also decided to shoot everything at 4K 120 frames per second, so that way we could have the additional frames in order to speed ramp our shots accordingly for how we wanted to handle it in post. Right now I'm running on passion. Honestly, I'm extremely tired. I'm just really happy to see the work that's coming from this. So that's all I have left in the tank is passion. I think I got like maybe 4 hours of sleep last night between offloading cards and reviewing footage and then prepping camera again for today. But yeah, just running on passion right now. I'm pretty tired though. When it comes to testing out cameras, I try my best to take it to the max, and that's exactly what I was trying to do with this shoot. The purpose was to really see what I could get out of this camera and what it would be like to use this camera in a professional environment when working with a robot. And with a shot like this that requires multiple passes, you need a camera that's going to be reliable and that's going to give you the exact same image every single time. I wish I could tell you that getting this shot was simple, but then I'd be lying to you. It took multiple passes before we felt like we got the 2 bolts in sync with one another in a way where the motion felt natural. All right, so we just wrapped here in Houston on this amazing Bolt shoot. This is Justin and he's from Dallas, and this is Justin and he's here in Houston. Definitely check out these guys. They know exactly what they're doing, and honestly, I could not have done this production without them. And just like that, we were wrapped on the day, but now it was time to put in hours and hours of editing in order to get the shot perfectly dialed in. And honestly, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Y'all, this week was nuts. Honestly, I can't believe that I was able to squeeze all these productions in a matter of a week's time, especially with only 3 days to plan the entire thing. But I have to say, at first I was not really expecting this camera to be that much. I was thinking it was gonna be just like a stripped down version of the Red V Raptor, but honestly, it was an amazing camera. Tomorrow I'll be on the lookout because I will be dropping a video directly comparing this to the Komodo X, but I do think that it is its very own specific use case type camera. And even as someone who owns a Red V Raptor, I'm really feeling like I'm gonna end up picking up the Komodo X for myself, because this camera can just do things that none of the other 2 cameras can do, and it fits in perfectly in certain situations. Now, when it comes to the pros and cons of this camera, honestly, you know, should you buy a Red or should you not buy a Red? That's going to be a question that you're going to have to answer for yourself. But I will say, if you are somebody who's been on the fence about the Komodos or getting into the Red ecosystem, this camera checks so many different boxes. I know it comes in at a price point of just under $10,000, which is no small price by any means. But for what you can do with this camera, I mean, as you saw throughout this project, I put it into tons of different situations, whether that was run and gun or professional shooting environments. I mean, you really can use this camera on just about any set. And I love the form factor of it. I love the original Komodo, but I definitely love the form factor of this camera as well. This project took so many people to pull off, and so I wanted to quickly just say thank you to everyone who helped make this project possible, from those who just volunteered their time and their gear to those who actually financially helped me to pull this thing off. I have to say thank you so many times over. Thank you for being with me on this project. I hope you guys learned a lot about the Komodo X, and maybe it has helped you to know whether or not you are going to ultimately pick up this camera. As I mentioned, I do have other videos coming out about the Komodo X, so be sure to leave your questions down below in the comments section. I'm going to be living down there for the next couple days trying to answer as many questions as I can, because I understand that this is going to be a very, very hot camera, especially once people see what it can do. Now, for those of you guys who have purchased the Komodo X or are really thinking about purchasing the Komodo X, I do have an entire camera guide coming out for the Komodo X. I already have it linked down below in the description. If you're already a member of the Creative Fam Academy and you have the all access plan, well, then you already are going to have access to this entire guide. But if you are interested in my guide over the Komodo X, how to use it, how to get the best from it, and also you're going to see a ton more BTS from this entire project, including some downloadable footage that you can actually download and start messing around with and editing and playing with. Definitely check out the links for that down below in the description. Again, thank you to all the members of the Creative Fam Academy who help make big videos like this possible. If you want to support this channel and you like the content that I make, you can also join and start supporting this channel for just $5 a month. I have that link down below as well. This entire project was a huge endeavor, and it honestly cost quite a bit to make, but I love making projects like this because it really pushes me as a creator and it allows me to show you guys what is capable with the tools that are out there. But thank you guys so much for checking out this video. If you have any questions, again, leave those down in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next big video, which is dropping tomorrow. Peace.